Hello, friends. Lately, I have been fully back in my historical romance reading era. Every time I fall into this place, I start noticing patterns in what I love reading. There are just certain tropes that will immediately make me pick up a book. And I don't really fight it anymore, I just fully lean in. So today I thought it would be fun to go through 10 historical romance tropes I absolutely cannot resist, along with book recommendations for each one. So let's get into it. There is something about marriage of convenience that just always works for me. It's that setup where two characters enter into a marriage for completely practical reasons: inheritance, reputation, survival, family pressure, and then slowly, without meaning to, feelings start developing. What I love most is how well this works in historical romance specifically, because there are always real stakes attached. It's not just emotional tension, it's social pressure, it's financial survival, sometimes even safety. So every small moment between them starts to feel really meaningful. And before long, what started as an arrangement doesn't feel like an arrangement anymore. There are a couple books that immediately come to mind when I think of this trope. So we have The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare and The Switch by Lindsay Sands. And I think I'll always love the way this trope turns practicality into something unexpectedly soft. I don't know what it is about grumpy heroes, but historical romance does them so well. It's always this emotionally closed off, brooding man that acts like he doesn't care about anything. But what makes this trope so compelling is that it's never actually consistent. There are always these small cracks that start to show through the exterior. The heroine says something that gets a reaction out of him that no one else gets, or he responds in a way that feels almost accidental, like he didn't mean to soften it but did anyway. And that's what really pulls me in, not the grumpiness itself, but the fact that it slowly starts to unravel without him even realizing it. A couple books that fit this trope would be When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare and Love Only Once by Joanna Lindsay. And I think that's why grumpy heroes work so well. It's not about the attitude, it's about what starts to slip through it. This trope is just pure chaos in the best way. It always starts with completely logical arrangement. We're only pretending. And both characters fully commit to the idea that this is temporary and strictly practical. But without fail, emotions get involved. Jealousy appears, boundaries blur, and suddenly the fake part starts feeling very real. And what I really love about this trope is how quickly that line between pretending and actually feeling something starts to disappear, usually without either character fully noticing it happening. There are a couple of books that truly capture this for me: Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare and The Deed by Lindsay Sands. And I think that's why fake engagement stories are so addictive. You always know where they're going, but you still enjoy every step. This is one of my favorite tropes in historical romance. There's just something about that combination of pride, tension, and emotional restraint that really pulls me in immediately. In historical romance specifically, it's not just playful banter. It's often this deeper clash of personalities, expectations, and control. So every interaction feels charged in a way where even the smallest moment carries meaning. And what I love most is how initial conflict doesn't just disappear, it slowly transforms into something more complicated, where neither of them can quite tell where things stopped being about enemies at all. And a couple books that capture this are When Passion Rules by Joanna Lindsay and The Chase by Lindsay Sands. And I think that's why Enemies to Lovers works so well. The tension doesn't just disappear, it evolves. I love forced proximity because it's such a simple setup and it always works. Two characters are stuck together, carriage rides, storms, shared estates, and suddenly there's nowhere to hide from each other. What I really like about this trope is that it removes all the usual space between characters. So everything that's been building underneath the surface has nowhere to go except into conversation, tension, and these very unplanned moments of closeness. And that's usually when things start to shift in ways neither of them expected. So there's a couple books that capture this trope: Gentle Rogue by Joanna Lindsay and Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. And I don't think I ever get tired of watching characters slowly run out of space to avoid each other emotionally. This trope requires patience, but that's kind of what makes it work. It's not instant attraction, it's a gradual build that happens over time, Small conversations, little moments, this slow accumulation of trust and attention that doesn't feel like much at first until it suddenly does. And what I really love about slow burn is that it sneaks up on you. You don't always notice the exact moment things change. You just realize at some point that the emotional connection is already there. And that's usually when it hits the hardest. So there's a couple books that capture this trope: A Loving Scoundrel by Joanna Lindsey and The Key by Lindsay Sands. And slow burns always get me because I think I fall for the realization a little bit more than the actual moment itself. This is one of those tropes where I know I should be normal about it, but I'm really not. I love a protective hero who's protective in a grounded way. Not controlling, not overbearing, just someone who's observant in a way that makes you feel like he's always paying attention, even when nothing is being said out loud. And what I really like about this trope is it's rarely about big dramatic gestures. It's usually the small things: noticing something's wrong before anyone else does, stepping in without making it a performance, or just quietly making sure someone is safe. And that protectiveness feels really steady and intentional, which is exactly what makes it so appealing. So, couple books for this trope: The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare and Falling for the Highlander by Lindsay Sands. And I think I'll always be a little bit weak for characters who care loudly through actions instead of words. I really love a wallflower heroine arc. There's just something so satisfying about a character who starts off overlooked, underestimated, or even completely dismissed by the people around her. And then slowly, over time, she starts to take up more space in the story in a way that really feels natural. What I especially love is that it's not usually an overnight transformation. It's more like a gradual shift in how she sees herself and how other people start to see her too. And when it's done well, it makes the romance feel really personal, like you've been watching someone quietly come into their own the whole time. There's a couple books that capture this: Love is Blind by Lindsay Sands and Love Me Forever by Joanna Lindsey. And I think I'll always find it interesting how the quietest characters often end up having the most noticeable journeys. This trope is dramatic, and I fully accept that. There's just something about a hidden identity, a secret past, or a reveal that completely changes how you understand a character or the relationship between them. And what I like most is that it adds this layer of tension underneath everything else. Even in quieter moments, there's always this sense that not everything is being fully seen yet. And when the truth finally comes out, it doesn't just add drama, it recontextualizes everything that came before it. And that's usually what makes it so satisfying, even when you can see it coming. There's a couple books that capture this: A Lady in Disguise by Lindsay Sands and Do You Want to Start a Scandal by Tessa Dare. And I think I'll always love a trope that makes me second guess everything I think I know right up until the very end. This one is softer than the rest, but I think that's exactly why it stands out. It's that shift from already knowing someone really well to suddenly realizing that something has changed in the dynamic between you. And what I love about Friends to Lovers is that the romance doesn't feel like it's starting from zero. It feels like it's growing out of something that already has history, comfort, and understanding behind it. So when that emotional shift finally happens, it feels really natural, almost like it was always quietly building in the background. And that's usually what makes it hit so differently compared to other tropes. There's a couple books that capture this: Goddess of the Hunt by Tessa Dare and That Perfect Someone by Joanna Lindsey. And I think there's something really comforting about watching two people realize they already had everything they needed right in front of them. So those are 10 historical romance tropes I just can't resist. And honestly, every time I look at lists like this, I feel like it says way too much about my reading personality. I also think that's kind of the fun of historical romance, because the tropes are familiar, but the way they show up in different books is what makes them so addictive. They're comforting, predictable in the best way, and somehow still manage to surprise me every time. So now I'm curious, what are the tropes you always fall for? Thanks so much for watching. Stay cozy and keep reading.